What is this presentation here?
All right. Good evening, everyone, and good evening, residents of Litchfield, and welcome to the May 4th school board meeting. And for my son, may the force be with you. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Fantastic.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our revisions are, we have two revisions. Presentation for the Gifted and Talented program. I believe Mrs. Ankto will be, she is, right? Janine? She'll be doing it. And our student reps will be right before the principals so that they can venture off and study and do whatever they need to do or practice for their play. With that, summary of non-public from April 20th, 2016. Mr. Barker made a motion to approve the April 6th, 2016 non-public minutes as written. Mrs. Harrison second. The motion carried 4-0-0. Mrs. Lepore made a motion to accept the resignation of Terry Seelig, GMS school psychologist. Mr. Barker seconded the motion. The motion carried 4-0-0. Mr. Barker made a motion to accept the resignation of Karen Kilgore, part-time CHS chemistry teacher. Mrs. Lepore second. The motion carried 4-0-0. Presentation and recognitions. That's you.
There's a group of about a dozen parents or so that have been meeting over the course of this year to talk about a need that we see in Litchfield to address our higher end learners and keep them engaged and keep them challenged. You don't have to? Yes, I have to. Okay. And so the purpose tonight is to just give you a snapshot of what we've been talking about and what we've been working on and researching. We've met with the principals, we've met with Superintendent O'Neill, and while tonight's presentation is not a polished, finished proposal, we thought we'd be doing May 11th, and then it got changed, and we were all gone over vacation. But we thought it was still a good idea to come tonight and give you a snapshot of what we've been discussing, and we're going to continue our conversations with the principals in a couple weeks. We have another meeting, and so just to let you know what's been going on, I'm going to start by handing it over to Kara.
Just a little bit. Good job, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to meet with you tonight. We, all of us on this very small committee, which, as Janine mentioned, has really just been started. We all really believe in the school system and appreciate the contributions all of you make, both those of you on the school committee and, of course, the administrators who work in our schools every day. We're proud of Litchfield, which is why we have the title, Why Would We Need to Make a Change? There's so many good things going on already at GMS and LMS. But I think we're always interested in continuous improvement. What's the next step? So we are a representative group speaking on behalf of the highest achieving students in our school system. Statistically, high achieving students make up about 8% of the student population, and even in our small school district, that's at least 110 students, maybe even more. As you know, we don't have a way to really seek out those students who are gifted and talented. I hesitate to even use the word because it has been used inappropriately. But right now, we don't have a test that we're using to really determine that. But like I said, it's typically about 8%. And so that would be at least 110 students. It might be even more. So I think really our committee could be made of many more people. The gifted and talented students in our community and in our country have been negatively impacted by the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. One report found that while NCLB did encourage educators to raise standards and push those low-achieving students up, I think those of us who've been working in education would agree that it shifted teachers' focus away from the highest achieving students. Even with our Common Core state standards, it's great to have these standards, but what happens with those students who meet those standards before they enter the grade? I think with the emphasis on the Common Core, it's even more difficult for educators to know what to do with those students who are the highest achieving. Gifted and talented students and those with high abilities need gifted education programs that will challenge them both in the regular classroom settings and outside of school. And we do, once again, back to our title, we have a number of those things in place already. We're really looking at what more could we do, both within the classroom and outside of the classroom as well. These students differ from typical students in terms of learning style, depth, and complexity of their understanding and potential. The education program for gifted students really needs to be modified to meet their needs. And this is something we learned about years ago with students with special needs, they really need the education to be modified for them. It is the same thing with these gifted students. They really need a specialized program. Right now, our gifted students are currently exclusively educated in the general classroom, and I would argue that not just in our town, but throughout the state and even throughout the country, most educators have not been given the education that they need to really meet the needs of these highest achieving students. I just wanted to share that we are very proud of what's going on in Litchfield, and we're not here to point fingers at the teachers and certainly not at the administration, but really to work together to think about what more could we do for these students. Really beginning a conversation about what we can do to meet the needs of these learners. These children do have a right to a free and appropriate education, which is different than what they're receiving in the general education. And that means, and just reading the mission statement, it's right in line with what we want for all students in Litchfield, to really be pushed to reach their highest potential. So like Janine said, we've been thinking about some preliminary ideas, and this is a beginning. We're looking forward to more conversation and talking about ways that we can continue to improve the educational experience for these students.
She's so eloquent. All right, so that was a good introduction to why this group has been working and why it's something we think we need to address in Litchfield. Oh, sorry. She mentioned free appropriate public education, which should apply to all kids. Differentiation within the classroom has natural limitations, not the least of which being that every year it starts over, with the teacher getting to know the students and the parents helping the teacher get to know the students and what can we do, and it's a process that starts over every school year, which loses valuable time. Those kids who do not get challenged, research shows they may either withdraw socially and emotionally, or they can start to create disruptions to create some intellectual stimulation for themselves, make some fun. We also have an obligation to teach these kids how to struggle and work through challenges, and if they don't have the opportunity to face a challenge, then we're not fulfilling our obligation there to help them learn how to handle that. We do have a lot in place for the kids who are falling behind grade level, and Kara alluded to that. So who are these students that might need this extra challenge? And this would be a process of identifying that would include a lot of the data we already have. We already have SBAC test results, Ames Web test results, MIWA test results. It would also include classroom assessments, report card grades, as well as teacher recommendation. So it would be more of a portfolio, not a one test snapshot of a child. This is some of the data that is available publicly. Just to see what kind of numbers are we talking about in Litchfield, and from the SBAC results from last year, we can see that in ELA we have 32 students, 22, 27, and 13 at the various grade levels, 3 through 8, who are performing at the highest proficiency level on the ELA SBAC. And in math, 14, 13, 4, 26, 30, and 18. So just to give an idea about what kind of population, and that is just one snapshot on one assessment, but to get an idea of those numbers, the NAEP, you say? And I think, is that the last time we did it, 2013? That was the last published data I could find. But anyway, a couple years back, in the most advanced category, we had 11 students in reading in 4th grade and 6 advanced students in 8th grade. In math, we had, oops, the numbers aren't there. Math was higher, I can tell you that. I can remember they were both in the teens. Sorry about that. So what could we do? So these are what we found from research. We have a lot of educators in this group that's been meeting, educators from different districts. We have a principal, and we have all concerned, intelligent parents in this group. And so we did a lot of research about what's happening in other districts in New Hampshire and a little bit from Massachusetts as well. So these are some options that other schools are doing, hiring a full-time enrichment teacher to work with those top students at each grade level in K through 8. We focused our research on K through 8 because we feel at the high school level there already is a lot being done in terms of advanced level courses and college readiness courses. You could use specialists and tutors that we already have to create some type of extension program to challenge those top kids. We could work on leveling math instruction much the same way that our reading is structured. We could have a grade level wide time for support, enrichment, and extension for all kids, so everyone's getting something during that time, and it's not just our top kids, but everyone's getting what they need during that time. And also we could look at providing more professional development for teachers to support knowing how to differentiate the instruction in the classroom, especially where they have so many new programs that they're working through and learning. Figuring out the best way to differentiate within those new programs could be helpful. So our group, we're calling ourselves panel, Parents Advocating for the Needs of Every Learner. And our proposal, and we realize it's your job to work within the reality and the confines of budgets and time limits and things like that, but our proposal, what we would love, is to see in the 2016-2017 school year, funds being shifted from losing classroom teacher as our enrollment goes down, shift those funds to an enrichment teacher that would identify and pull groups of extenders by grade level and work with these students multiple times a week with the content on a different level, on a deeper level, through projects, cooperative problem solving. They could also organize some school academic type of events like science fairs and math competitions with the guidance of that enrichment teacher. During this time, the enrichment teacher would also assist with a school-wide transition to a more systematic RTI and PLC approach in K through 8, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that is. We've had this conversation with the principals of exactly what that looks like, but the teachers would be trained in professional learning communities, not something that is a brand new idea, but some more systematic training in how to use professional learning communities and response to intervention to use their collaborative planning time in a focused and systematic way to really use that data and look at what trends there are and what needs to be addressed so that we could use a grade level the following year, work on getting a grade level time to meet everybody's needs based on what they find in that data. A leadership team would be developed to train and lead the RTI process, and administrators would work on a shift in scheduling, not adding time to the schedule, but using that time that's in the school day more efficiently for everybody. In 2017, 2018, the following year, we would love to see the professional learning communities working collaboratively during common planning time, which is already scheduled in. They have common planning time, to recognize those trends and what should be addressed. Every 6 weeks, the leadership team would take 2 days with the assistance of a floating sub and meet with every classroom teacher and discuss every single student. The team decides what RTI group, what intervention groups each child would most benefit from. The RTI groups would be assigned for the next 6 weeks. Those groups would meet daily for 30 minutes, which would be a common planning time at each grade level. They'd have various assigned staff members. You'd use kind of an all-hands-on-deck approach with tutors, specialists, teachers, counselors, paras, anyone who is legally able to participate in this and is available. Every 6 weeks, that process would be repeated. They'd look at data, determine if those interventions are working, determine what else could be added or changed. At LMS, they use the RTI process to determine placements in math and reading for when they start having some leveled courses, and examine the data to determine if those courses are meeting the needs of the students. That's kind of like our dream, our wish of how we would love to see those needs being met. Some of those examples of some of those RTI times, like grade level time, when everyone would be assigned to some type of intervention. And this is based on a successful program that's been happening in Hollis for a couple of years now, and some of the types of groups that they have held are a web page with student writing and interviews, and they would be student run, filling in gaps in specific math skills, so an intervention kind of catch-up group, enrichment extension activities in academic areas. You could integrate art, literature, integrate many subjects, and do some projects. Music composition they've done in Hollis. Phonics support, book clubs, social skills, friendship, anxiety, coping skills, school news reporters. In Hollis, they did the People of Hollis, like they do the People of New York, that blog. And so they started kind of sharing little news clips from kids, staff and kids around the school community. Cooperative problem-solving groups. So those are just some of the ideas that have been tried. Some benefits that we see to this program are that the common planning time that is already in place would be used a little more systematically in an accountable way. All students would have their needs met, not just the kids who are falling behind. School-wide approach makes more of a village of invested parties. All the staff would get to know the students better. It would reduce the need for the CAP team meetings that we have at GMS, because every child would already be discussed by the leadership team every 6 weeks. Possibly we could retain a specialist teacher at full time with our reduced enrollment. That could be a concern, so that might be a way to validate retaining them. We would reduce the revolving door. I call it the revolving door syndrome. That, from my experience, I think that it is getting pretty frustrating for teachers that there's so many service providers coming in, going in all sorts of different times that they just can't even keep track of which kids in their classroom when and who's gotten what. It would reduce that revolving door time because everyone would have some need met during that common time. If there's an additional time, special ed or something that they need them another time, that would still happen, but this would reduce all the in and outs all day long. It would encourage collaboration and communication among teachers and support staff. So the Hollis Elementary program that we have been invited to come and observe, to get some mentoring and advice from them. It's been very successful, and some of the benefits that they have seen from it are decreased behavior problems school-wide, increased student motivation and participation. There have been fewer SPED referrals, and some students have been able to be taken off their IEPs, which I think is pretty amazing. Teachers felt less isolated in meeting student needs. They felt they had more support, there was more of a village, and it wasn't all on their shoulders. They had improved test scores, and we can see the proof of that. That's published. Increased teacher awareness of data trends and student needs. Teachers were just more aware in general of the effectiveness of the teaching overall. They found increased community support for their schools, and they got better quality of applicants for their teaching positions in the district. They had more qualified candidates. More people were wanting to be a part of this new initiative. What parts are similar to what we already do? Like Kara said, there's a lot of great stuff going on, and we're not asking for everything to be changed, but we're looking at how we can take what we're doing that's great and make some small changes to make it even better. And we already have some common grade level planning time, which is great. We just use one of those a week for some planning for the ITRI process. Problem-solving team discusses individual child. And at GMS, that's our CAP team meetings. What does that stand for? I can't remember.
Child assistance team.
Child assistance team, okay.
Yeah.
So this would be a similar process, but it would be done for every child, not just the children that are referred to CAP by the teacher. Support services provided to kids in need, that's already happening. Now support services would be provided during our TI time, and something would be provided to every child. There already is some enrichment time at LMS, so now enrichment time could be a little more systematically planned and for every child. Look at exactly what they need. Weekly enrichment activities for one quarter at GMS. This was a great step in the right direction this year that we have all our 3rd and 4th graders for one quarter doing some type of an enrichment activity. My daughter enjoyed African drumming for one quarter. And in 1st and 2nd grade, it was the top kids who were referred by their teacher, that they got one quarter of either math or reading enrichment. So that's a great start, but it really adds up to a very small chunk of time that they get for that additional enrichment. This would be more of a year-long systematic approach and geared to the individual needs for all children. So that is the end of what I wanted to share. And like I said, it's it's a discussion that is ongoing, and research is ongoing, and we're gonna get some feedback from the administration and what they think at our next meeting, and we just wanted to share with you what we've been talking about.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions at this time?
I have a question about the common planning time and taking one period a week for PLCs. I don't know,
Do you want to,
Nate, if you can give some insight. I know a lot of the teachers' unions have regulations for that, weekly, daily prep time, and in some districts you cannot use that time for PLCs. So I think that's something, I don't know how that plan would fall in with the LEA's contract here.
Yeah, I know we have, there's, I'll ask them, actually I should ask the board chair.
Good. You can answer it.
So certainly we have some prescriptions within the CBA when it comes to planning time, but, I certainly think with there being ongoing conversations, I think from my perspective, we could certainly talk with the groups and try to, make sure that we could make any sort of necessary accommodations during that time. I know that there are times, I think, Scott and Tom might be more familiar with some of the structure of those planning times, because I know that there are some times at both schools where there's some teamwork that's done during that time, and it's not just individual teachers using their planning time, so I don't know if I can defer to them on sort of
yes.
some of
The contract calls for in our district, a number of minutes per week, which allows for some flexibility. So at GMS, teachers all have off their special time, which is a 45-minute class when the kids are every day at either music, art, something like that. And in addition, they have to have a 30-minute lunch when they're not supervising students, but we also have recess, so they have the 30 minutes for recess. So our teams do meet. Truthfully, most teams meet every day during that 30-minute block. And I'll tell you, that's when we meet with them, administration and a team meeting during that time generally. And anytime you go into the classrooms during that time, the teachers are already meeting, discussing curriculum, student issues, that kind of thing that have come up. So there is time that we could do something like that. I do have to correct something I said earlier. I said child assistance team. Caught me off guard. It's collaborative assistance team, just for the record.
Anything else?
Nate.
No.
Oh, yeah, and certainly, up at the high school too, during those planning, the planning periods in which there's time allotted under the CBA, staff is meeting with certain teams. We're certainly in on IEP meetings or 504 referral meetings. So, we've been pretty flexible in terms of how we're spending that time. I think that would be is that a fair assessment?
Thank you.
I have a quick one. You mentioned the enrichment period at LMS being used. Where are we going to find the 30 minutes at GMS? Have you guys talked about that at all, or?
Well, I heard about the plan at our meeting a few weeks ago, and I think that what was envisioned, right now for reading, for example, we have a 90-minute instructional block, and it's broken into segments. And so the first 30 minutes is generally a whole group lesson, and then the next hour is broken into 20-minute segments. Some students have 40 minutes of direct tutoring. Some have 20 minutes, and it's either with a tutor or with the classroom teacher. Mm-hmm. So I think that the vision, as I understood it, was to use a model like that, and then during that time, every student would be getting something that's appropriate for their need. The question is, who? I mean, that, as we move forward. Because, so yes, I think that was the vision. And math, so what that requires is a coordination of schedules across grade levels, because our tutors and our reading specialists are the people who work with those, if it's not the classroom teacher. And so sometimes you have to have the classes have reading time aligned, and they do sometimes combined groups, like 2 students from here and 2 from there. It's trying to put all of that together, that's the challenge. Math is, would probably, I think the vision was that would be handled similarly, but again, it's combining support with available time and coordinating schedules.
No, I just want to go back to the comment on resources, and I certainly think that we would need additional resources. I think one of the points you make is that this current year, we lost a 4th grade teacher, and we don't have that resource. I do believe that there's some fabulous ideas that you're putting on the table. I just don't want to make the board believe that these can be done with our current level of resources. We will need some additional resources, certainly personnel, and even more so, we may need software resources, we may need furniture resources, we may need other things like that also. So I think in going forward with this idea, we're obviously going to continue to meet and bring to the board some things that may have impact on the budget as we develop the budget. And some of those things may quite clearly be personnel and other kinds of resources to implement this if this is the direction the board wishes us to go. So I just want to make that, quite public.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't know if that was entirely clear. We are talking about students who enter 3rd grade on a 4th grade level. So the teacher is confronted with a child who has already met all of the standards for 3rd grade, September 5th. And that is too much to put on a classroom teacher. And that's not going to be met in a half-hour a day. So that additional classroom teacher was early on in the presentation, but I think it's such an integral part. It's necessary to have that person who is going to develop those projects, who is going to continue to meet with the students, who's going to coordinate with those classroom teachers, because in fact, that child may enter 2nd grade at a 4th grade level. So developmentally, that child is in 2nd grade, right with his peers where he should be, but really, he's mastered 2nd grade and he's mastered 3rd grade. So what is a classroom teacher who also has children at the kindergarten level, what is that 2nd grade classroom teacher supposed to do with that child? She needs support to really meet that child's needs. And he's not just one, like I said, he's probably one of 110 students that we have in this district.
But would a half an hour of specialized instruction for that student be enough for them to?
So that's what I'm saying. I think really the 2 are really very important. I think if it's possible to use, and once again, I'm not pretending to know enough about your budget or your resources, but if it's possible to use an existing FTE, so we have a teacher in place, if it's possible to use that FTE and shift that into a gifted and talented teacher, that would be ideal. That half-hour a day is going to be helpful, but if that child, like I said, entered 2nd grade at a 4th grade level, the half-hour a day is not going to be enough. They're going to need more. The half-hour a day is good for everybody, because everybody's getting something right at their level. That can be great for everybody in the school, but it's not going to be enough for that child who is truly gifted and talented. So I think you really need both. You need, and you brought up some other great points about resources. There are some great online resources. There's a Center for Talented Youth through Johns Hopkins. New Hampshire has some great resources, primarily moving up in the grades. But there are some great online programs that we'll have further discussions about. They do usually come with a price tag. So, it's not just the half-hour a day.
If I could just say one thing, I think there are great online resources. However, I think it's really important that we have great teachers in front of these kids to complement the resources. Those are complementary, they're not standalone. And I just want to make sure we don't try and make any kind of a pattern of thinking that would say we can just do this through online resources. We can't. We need some really great people in the classroom to help us with these kinds of issues.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, and that'll bring us to correspondence.
I believe we had 2. The first was from Betty Vaughn. It's pretty short, so I'll read it. Let's see. It was on Sunday, 4/24. It reads, "I was kind of shocked at how out of control Brian Bork was at the Budget Committee meeting. It seems pretty clear to me that he won't be effective because he can't overcome his defensiveness about people's comments about the conflict of interest. It would be in everyone's best interest if someone else took over that role." Betty Vaughn. We can comment afterwards.
Let's do both of them, then I can comment, kind of go together.
The second one is from the Budget Committee. It's a long one. I'll read it though anyway. It's from the Budget Committee itself. Dear members of the school board, I am writing on behalf of the members of the Budget Committee. You may be aware that membership on the committee has been the subject of much debate at our last 2 meetings. Specifically, that both a husband and wife serve together on the committee. While Jen Burke is a duly elected member of the Budget Committee and Brian Burke a duly elected member of the school board, it is the action of the school board that places him on the Budget Committee as their representative. It is understood there is no legal conflict of interest. However, there's a concern that there's a perceived conflict of interest by some, and that affects the credibility of decisions made by the committee as a whole. We know the board discussed whether appointing Brian could be perceived as a conflict of interest, and that discussion ended with the comment, well, if the Budget Committee doesn't have an issue with it, then neither does the school board. The recent decision of having someone other than Brian represent the school board during the school budget presentations helps mitigate some of the concern. While the decision of who to appoint to represent the school board remains the responsibility and right of the school board, the committee wanted to inform the school board of the concern that still exists. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. That was all the correspondence.
Yeah. All about me.
You're a popular guy.
So I'll respond to Betty Vaughn's first, as far as out of control. I don't consider that I was out of control that evening. Frustrated, because there's one, maybe 2 board members on the Budget Committee that constantly bring up a conflict of interest. And I constantly then question them what the conflict of interest is. And they cannot give me what the conflict of interest is, just that it's perceived as a conflict of interest. But prior to the last meeting, I had met with, and I'll roll into the letter, with the chairwoman, Cindy Couture, and let her know that when the school portion would be presented, that Tina Harrison, well, at that time, I didn't have a person, but that I would seek out another individual that would take over during the school part. So any perceived conflict of interest by my wife sitting on the Budget Committee, myself being the school board member on the Budget Committee, would be eliminated, because someone else would be taking my place. But even if someone weren't taking my place, my responsibility as a representative for the school board on the Budget Committee, that I would be voting for everything that I'm presenting, because I am there as a representative to vote for the school board. The letter came about, again, the 1 or 2 individuals who continually talked about a conflict of interest made a motion. They wanted a letter written to the school board to voice their concern. So with that being said, they took a vote, and the vote, I believe, was 8-1, that to write the letter. I was one of the people who said, go ahead and write the letter. And I have no problem if they want to. I mean, anyone who watches the video would see that the few members, and I can tell you the majority of the people on the Budget Committee that are sitting right now don't have a problem with it, especially knowing that come the school portion, that I would not be sitting as the school board. And the one person who voted against writing the letter was Cindy Couture. But Cindy had also addressed the board before the meeting that the conversation that we had, that I would remove myself at the school board portion of it, and she was comfortable with that, knowing that someone else would be taken over, and that would eliminate some of the conflict. Again, I'm not sure what the conflict was, so. And I can assure you that there are other boards out there, and there are other portions of the government where their husband and wives sitting on the same boards. So, and as far as being out of control, it's only because, again, I'm passionate as far as what I'm doing on the school board, and I'm passionate for the schools. I want to do what's best for them. I've been the representative for the Budget Committee. This is my 4th year. I feel I have a very good understanding of the budgets that are presented, and I think it's important that the person doing it, and generally it's always the person's first year, and Tina is going to take over the school board portion, but she's also been involved in watching the meetings and being at the meetings, so she'll have a better insight of what's going to happen. But the budgets haven't been presented yet, so it's even a little bit different. And I think it's important. If you can put your best person out there, you're better off than just putting someone who maybe doesn't want to be on there or doesn't have the time to do so. But I think Tina will do a fine job, that the entire board will help her as far as being ready, along with the administrative staff. But it's a lot of work. So With that being said, as far as Betty Bond, I can assure you that I have nothing else to question or say as far as conflict of interest, because they can't tell me what it is. So, as far as I'm concerned, the subject is rested.
I'll reiterate what I said to the Budget Committee at the first meeting when they first raised their concern. I don't think there is a conflict of interest. Brian, as our school board rep, has one job, and it's to diligently defend our budget. He can't change his vote. He can't do anything to the budget. He has to sit there and defend it. He's defended it very well for the last 3 years. He's educated the budget. He knows the process. He does a good job at it. Even if he wasn't our rep, his wife is still on the board. If he was going to persuade her in one way or another, he could do it at home or sitting across from her at the table. It doesn't make a difference. There is no conflict of interest. Anyone who knows Jen knows that Brian's not changing her mind on a vote anyway. So it really doesn't matter. As far as that, the last week, I honestly don't know what Betty was referring to either. I've watched lots of Budget Committee meetings, and last week's was pretty tame by most accounts.
Well,
so.
you're there for a portion of it. And Tina, you were there also.
I was.
So.
I have to throw in my 2 cents as well. From what I've observed of you over the past couple of years, I expect you to remain as professional as you've always been. I don't think that there's an issue at all. And I don't think that there's a problem with any perceived conflict of interest. People aren't, nobody from the town is contacting and worried about it. No one's concerned about it. So I think that is a non-issue. And I think you'd be just fine being the rep in the school board all the way through, including with regard to the school budgets. But I think the suggestion is a fair one. It should be fine with the budget committee. They shouldn't have any other issues going forward. So.
Thank you.
And just, I stated this, I believe, last time that this came up, but we did seek an opinion from legal counsel regarding conflict of interest, and legal counsel stated exactly what Chairman Bork said, that there is no conflict of interest.
Thank you. That'll bring us to approval of draft minutes for 4/20/16.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 401.
Can you send me those letters?
Oh, yes, sorry.
That'll bring us to community forum. Hearing none. Superintendent's comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to take a moment to review the current status of the principal search for Campbell High School. We sent out surveys to all of the parents in grades 8 through 12. We received 95 surveys back from the parents. We're in the process of collating and analyzing all of that data. And we also sent out surveys to the high school staff and received back 31 responses from the high school staff. And again, we're in the process of analyzing that data. We will get that data all into bar graphs, and then we will give that information to the committee in advance of any candidates being interviewed, so the committee can review that data. And I will also review that data with the high school faculty so they can see what their responses were as a faculty and also what the community responses are. We've also sent out invitations to staff to be on the search committee, and at this point in time we believe the search committee is pretty much rounded out. We will be announcing that full representation hopefully tomorrow. I believe there was one question mark we had, but the committee will consist of an administrator, a principal, the HR director, an administrative assistant, a guidance director, a paraprofessional, and 7 teachers who represent math, English, social studies, science, unified arts, SPED. And within those teachers is also gender consideration as to representation. There is also consideration as to age, number of years they've been in Campbell. And so each representative has multiple hats on. And we also have 2 parents. We put out a blackboard to invite parents to be on the committee. I believe at this point in time we have 5 parents who have indicated they are interested in being on the committee. What we will do is to put those 5 parents into not necessarily a hat, but into something that is like a hat.
Barrel.
Whatever. And we will then have the two names drawn out of that hat in a public drawing, so we can ensure that any parent that is interested would have equal possibility of being on the committee. So we've done that. We have also placed the job on various sites, School Spring, other educational sites, and also in the Nashua newspaper and in the Manchester newspaper. To date, we have received, I believe, 11 completed applicants, and I will say to you that the cross-section of applicants at this point in time is very interesting. It looks like it's a very strong pool of applicants, and once all of the applicants are in, once that closes, then what we will do is to simply certify at the HR level that the applicants have met all of the criteria and all of their information is there. We will turn over all applicants to the selection committee, and the selection committee will then go through the applicants, select applicants they wish to interview applicants, and then recommend 3 to 5 finalists to the superintendent for final vetting of the applicants. And as these processes go, the final 3 applicants will come in for a full day of fun. They'll get a chance to meet with the teachers and the community and the administrators and anybody else who really wants to poke a little bit. But that's a pretty typical environment. Interview with the school board, and then the school board and the superintendent will have the final dialogue about selecting the candidate for Campbell principal. I want to make it clear, and I've stated this in the beginning, that we will not settle. We will get the candidate that we feel is the right candidate for the principalship. And I realize that Principal Rothaus is here, and I would be negligent in my comments if I didn't again express my sincere appreciation to Principal Rothaus for her dedication to the district for the last 9 years. I know it's a little bit awkward at times to sit and listen about this. And so, at the same time, I appreciate your smile and your dedication to the Campbell High School. We're hopefully looking to have finalist interviews with the superintendent over June 7th through 9th, 10th, and then staff and community meetings, and hopefully by July 1, we would have this all come to a conclusion and start moving forward. So I want to thank everybody who has sent in response to our request for information, or who has volunteered, or who has been willing to serve. And certainly, this is going to be a very thorough process, and we certainly look forward to completing this process. And that was really the major thing I wanted to talk to, Mr. Chair. Just as a minor update, the board had requested that we put a smart board in this room, and I believe the business administrator had updated you on that, but we're continuing to move towards that, and I believe that sometime between now and roughly the middle of July, we will have a smart board installed in this room, and then we will be able to use that, for instance, for the presentation tonight, or for other presentations, and I believe, Mr. B.A., you have a little bit more information on that, but I know you've been...
Mr. Bauer would like to say, we actually, if you look above you, there's some pencil marks there and some electricity. We are pretty much ready to go. The projector is here. It's ready to be installed. The whiteboard has been ordered, and we should have that in next week. Just an update for it as well. One of the key elements from the cable TV folks is that they're going to be able to direct wire in any presentation that we put on the projector, so they will not need to go, as they do now, from the camera and then on, because it really does a number on the resolution. So the upside to all of this, not only will we have a smart board here, but we'll also have the capability of doing a direct feed right into the cable.
That's my update for the evening.
Thank you. And that will bring us to school board comments. I think I would like to start first by, again, as the superintendent just did, thank Mrs. Rothaus for her years of service. She will be missed, and we wish her the best of luck in whatever endeavor she takes on. But truly want to say thank you for your years of service here.
I would like to second that, because Laurie was principal when my kids were in high school, and I think she was just a magnificent principal. I think Laurie was responsible for the community and the school and the the way kids were just so accepting of one another. I really think that was all due to Laurie and her leadership at the high school. And as you know, my kids had a great time at this high school through all of their years at school, but they had a wonderful experience in high school, and I really credit Laurie with a great deal of that. Thank you.
Any other comments from the school board? None?
I don't have any students in high school, but it's been great working with you this last 5 years.
Always getting up before your kids get to that.
Not a bad idea.
Shoot!
Also, I don't know, they weren't on the agenda, but did the student reps have anything to?
They're here.
Yeah, they're up next.
Are they? Okay.
They can slide up, they just, we have the,
So actually, we'll
they're
bring them
so
up.
cute.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hello. I can also, I've been here for the 4 years with Ms. Rothhaus, and she was there with me with my brother when he graduated late, and at his graduation she was there. We had a personal graduation. It was such a great time, and I was so glad for her to, she's very sweet about it. And there's nobody that has as much passion as her at this school. It's crazy. She's always, like, I did sports. She was at the sports things for us. She was so excited for us when we won our competitions, stuff like that. Nobody supports us like she does. It's fantastic. Just want to let you know.
Thank
I know you're going to cry.
I already did today.
Yeah.
They already
yeah.
sang for me today.
You already sang for her. Okay.
Is it our moment to speak? Or?
Yes.
It's your
Oh,
moment.
okay, I didn't know I'd want to.
You waiting for the spotlight, or?
Well, talking about Spotlight, we are in the midst of our musical for The Little Mermaid. We are doing great progress, leaps and bounds. Everybody's memorized, which to many is a pretty big feat. We're memorizing an entire script. The play is predicted to sell out. It is The Little Mermaid, and a lot of children want to come see their favorite Disney princess and stuff like that. So if you would like to come see us, contact a performer or Mr. Lowe directly, because it's going to sell out pretty quick, in our opinion.
Yeah, you're going to want to get your tickets.
Yeah.
When is it?
It's May 14th weekend.
Friday, next week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And Friday and Saturday are at 7 p.m. and Sunday is at 2 p.m., right? Okay.
Yeah, matinee. So in terms of musical performances, we're very excited, and hopefully you guys can all make it.
It's going to be a great show. It's a great production.
It is great.
Just a quick comment, I was here yesterday, and
Were you watching us?
I pushed it.
I thought I saw somebody in the door.
That's how I'm going. As was the superintendent, it was another delightful day, no issues, and everybody was happy. So I decided, I was walking out towards the front, and I hear this wonderful music going on in the auditorium. So I pushed the door open and kind of just peeked in and watched for a while, and you folks were fabulous. You were so professional, and your voices were right there. Everybody knew their line. I mean, I said, wow. So I'm quite excited about your performance, and thank you for letting me take a quick peek.
You're welcome.
We'll lock the door now.
I guess, how much do I owe you? Is that what you're asking?
I have to say, I have to miss it. I have a trip planned away, but I might see if I can come in for a dress rehearsal or a tech rehearsal.
What we tend to do, I mean, I don't know if this is the same thing this year, but in the past years we've done where the Thursday night, because next week's our tech week, and then it starts getting serious, like Thursday is our dress rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
So we tend to invite faculty in to come watch Thursday night, but you could probably even come in any other day
All
next
right,
week,
I'll
because
come
all of
Thursday
all of it's full show stuff.
Fantastic. And I'll send my kids.
Do you record, or do you make any kind of do you capture these things?
I don't think we're
You're not allowed to.
authorized
You're
to.
not allowed to?
You have to pay for that.
That's right, sorry about that. Sorry about that.
We have to pay Mr. Martin for his music, his
Quick,
performance.
answer that.
Good answer.
Well, good luck to all of you.
Good job.
Is that all you have?
That's all we have. We
I
didn't
guess-
really plan
I mean-
much. 'cause
No,
it
that's
was-
fine.
Pretty much.
Thank you for stopping in.
Blatant advertisement.
Yeah.
Mrs.
Shameless
DeLoe
plug.
told us to wear fish hats, which we're like, no, I don't think we're gonna wear the fish hats.
I want a fish hat.
You
There's
want
a
fish
lot.
hat?
I want a fish hat.
Okay. Well, thank you again. All right, and I'll start us with our principal reports, and we'll start with Mr. Thompson.
All right. I've sent in the written one, and you've all seen that. There were really only two things I wanted to highlight. One is still a work in progress. This year, in addition to the many things that are already done to help our fourth graders transition to fifth grade, including the evening presentation that Mr. Leckliter does, the middle school guidance staff and teachers coming to visit our students going up to visit there, all of that. We are trying to put together, and it's just working out details, for a fifth grade academy at GMS. And the discussion at the moment is whether we can afford 1 or 2 days, because it could interrupt end of the year curriculum mandates. The teachers have so much to get through that if the way we will set this up, it could interrupt it a bit. But what we want to do is have a day where each of our teachers becomes a subject area teacher, and we devise a schedule for all the students where they rotate through on 45-minute blocks. Initially, we had talked about doing this for 2 days, so there would be carryover from day to day. But what we want to do is try to emulate the middle school experience within the elementary schedule. We just thought this would be a really good eye-opening thing for the students to do. And the scheduled date is the 13th of June, the last Monday, except for the half-day on the 20th, and possibly the 14th. So I want to just mention that. It's kind of an exciting thing. I think teachers were pretty excited.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, we thought.
Especially doing it in the confines of a building they're comfortable with.
That's
and
right.
teachers they're comfortable with. I think that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So we already have a mock schedule, and what it'll give is the students an opportunity to be with their regular teacher at critical points throughout the day. So in the morning, before recess, at the end of the day, so they'll still have to go to their locker, get their books. I mean, we want to make it kind of a big deal. So that is something new that we're working on. The other thing I want to focus on is kind of a follow-up from last month. DI is continuing unabated in their fundraising and getting ready efforts. So I talked about that, and I contacted Susan Haley just to get some current information. I also ran into Marissa Fluitt last Friday before vacation. She said, "Oh, I'm covered with sawdust." She had been cutting up pallets to make a stand for cupcakes for the Saturday day that they had the all-day event. But so far, they've raised $9,300 of their 15. That includes the contribution of the school board. And as of last week, when she emailed me, they had only $5,700 left. They raised $2,518 at the DI Field Day at Dara Pond, the Saturday of vacation week, the first one. They've been selling breakfast at soccer at the rec fields. Susan Haley has applied for 3 grants and is awaiting response. The schools have also donated money. They are also waiting to hear back from corporate sponsors. So she didn't specify who that was, but I know she was looking at high-tech kind of firms, from what I heard. And then the Friday before vacation, the GMS staff had a Jeans Day. When we do that, we choose something to give money to. So we all gave money to DI to help them as well. And Mr. Leckliter might mention something that the LMS did, so I won't go there. And the last one is that the team will be working on some tweaks and a new team choice element over the next 3 weeks. So I just wanted to tell you, they are not stopping. They are going to be ready.
Yeah.
So they're going to be in great shape. They still have 3 weeks, so.
I saw them at soccer on Saturday selling their sandwiches, and I'll say it was great to be able to contribute. At the same time, it was great in that I could feed my kids in between like 8 soccer games.
Yeah.
Just that's egg sandwiches. Worked out well.
And I think this weekend when you go to the dump, they'll be available also.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Sanitizer, hopefully.
No, she said that's included.
That's a great idea.
It's individually wrapped, I guess.
So,
I think it's fantastic. So, good. All right. Does anybody have anything for Mr. Thompson? No. That brings us to Mr. Leckliter then.
One
I'm sorry.
question to Mr. Chair. I believe you were on vacation for a week or so, and
I
I
was.
saw a flock of birds in front of your house
There was.
over that period of time, and I didn't know whether that had any correlation to anything that you might be aware of. I just thought it was kind of an interesting observation.
Actually, that was the boys and girls lacrosse team here in the high school.
Is that was?
It was a fundraiser, yeah.
Okay, because it was
That's-
DI up in the previous district that used to
Yeah.
do that, so I thought it might have been DI.
No.
It was a soccer team.
It was a fundraiser, and they went from person to person who nominated someone, and then you make a donation.
Flamingos?
Yeah.
Oh, you pay to get rid of them?
Well, we were the last one, so, and we're on
Yeah,
vacation.
Big.
You want them gone? It costs you.
You got an email.
Exactly.
You pay to put them on somebody else's lawn.
Yeah. That was very successful, very successful for both lacrosse teams.
I did notice they shifted around a little bit, though. They moved around your front.
Probably, yeah.
They didn't stay in the same spot.
Trying it out just to see what
Yeah.
what's it gonna
Yeah.
do for the summertime.
That was it.
Sorry.
Sorry, Glenn.
All right, thank you. So next Wednesday night, we'll be getting ready for our cruise on the Potomac. We'll be down in Washington, our 8th grade trip. It's hard to believe.
Wow.
It is here. So candy, but, giving you updates all year. But, yes, we leave Tuesday, 110 students. And we'll be, Tuesday night, Tuesday evening, get down there. Tuesday night, we do memorials, and then full day of touring Wednesday, and then Wednesday night's the cruise on the Potomac. One of the highlights for a lot of the kids. So looking forward, the forecast looks good, so we'll just go with that for now. But looking forward to it. 110 kids, nice number, so kids did a great job this year with fundraising. We had a really, really good year of just, the kids are really excited. There's a lot of involvement, so. Thank you, Scott, for not stealing my thunder on the DI piece. We had a pep rally before break. Some of you who've had kids in the school probably heard a little bit about it. There was a lot going on. We recognize different groups and successes, sports, band, the arts, and we recognize the DI team with little trinkets, the student council. The kids really run our pep rallies, but it was a really nice recognition for the kids. Student council also decided on Friday, this really isn't that big of a thing, but Friday they are doing a little fundraiser with a pajama day, which we've done in the past for different things, but this is going to be dedicated, kind of like the GMS jeans, the pajamas days. It's going to go to DI. It may sound small, but actually the kids get really into the pajama days, and it raises pretty good fun. So that will be dedicated to them. A couple other quick notes. This is a pretty brief report this month. Kathy Sidlow is receiving the Loyalty Award for LMS on Friday evening this week. Kathy's done a lot in the district with different community events. The Terry Fox Walk, one of the traditions at the middle school, she's been involved with for many years, and just does a lot of different things in our community. So congratulations to Kathy, well-deserved award. And again, that's Friday this coming week. Just want to briefly just mention that we're in the middle of Smarter Balance still in our school. We are in, what we've done this year, I talked about last month, but we've separated the ELA and the math. So we're just finishing up the ELA with 8th grade this week, and then next month we move, or this month now, we're in May, we move through math. We have another few weeks of that. We do roughly a grade per week. So it's going well. We've had Jason Pelletier has done a great job with getting our connectivity and everything running real smooth. So I mentioned last month, we're really able to test in more authentic areas this year. So that's going really well, and thanks to Jason and his work in getting ready for that. Also, I wanted to mention transition. So we transition both ends of the middle school. June 9th is the date when the 4th graders are coming out. That evening is the parent information night. We run it pretty typically the same way each year. The kids get a nice flavor for how the schedule works, how the rotation works, a tour of the school, Q&A. We have student council representatives who answer questions for the kids and sort of do a little presentation of the school. Looking forward to that on the 9th. And then our 8th graders come up to Campbell actually at the end of this month, May 31st. They'll come up that morning, and then there's a parent information night in May, so that's coming up. And that brings me to just a few dates with the end of the year coming. Our promotion ceremony is the 17th, that Friday night at 7 o'clock. And then we have a few other, you see the report, over the next month and a half, we have a few pretty significant traditions and events that are coming up. And so we're looking forward to that. And Project Safeguard is June 1st this year, our 7th grade Project Safeguard program.
Thank you. Mrs. Rothaus.
Okay, so the first thing, something really nice happened at Campbell High School. A lot of nice things happened, but we have a paraprofessional who has cancer and, was really needing some support. And so first of all, our teachers, started to reach out by doing meals. And I went to Denise Freeman, who's the National Honor Society advisor, and I was trying to think, should we do a dinner? What can we do? And the kids actually came up with Ms. Freeman with the idea of doing a hats on, and we don't let kids wear hats, so they all wore hat, and purple was our favorite color, and so most of our kids wore purple, and they raised $1,512 for Miss Finnegan. And then we had a pep rally celebration. Our chorus, they learned a song and sang a song for her, and it was just an amazing day, and it kind of talks about the spirit of kids and how wonderful they really are. Grant Lavasser was appointed to the United States Military Academy at West Point, which is really exciting for him and his family. And Patrick Rochford, a sophomore, was named the Francis Wayland Parker Scholar for the state in May. There's a dinner next week that I'll be attending. Tomorrow, our New Hampshire scholars, 67 of them, will be going to the Fisher's Cats game. It's going to be cold, so we're going to have to dress warm, but we're excited. Last year, if you remember, we had our GPA of 392. We had 10 students. This year, we have 23 students. So we had to move our banquet because we couldn't fit all of the students. So it seems like once we started to do all A's, we got more kids doing all A's. We used to do a top 10. We went away from a top 10. We wanted to go to a GPA. And now we have 23 students who are going to receive that honor. And it's really a great night. And if you have an opportunity on May 24th, it's really something to see. Our junior prom is this Saturday. And Mr. Scarelli has done a wonderful job. Ms. DeLoe has presented to the DOE. She is our nomination for New Hampshire Teacher of the Year, and she did a wonderful job. Heidi Paris, our social studies CF, won the Loyalty Award also for CHS. And then if you look, there's a lot of dates of just a lot of dates and a lot of things. This is kind of our sprint time, and then I also provided you with our Campbell High School guide. And so you're invited to any of the events that we have coming up. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of celebrations going on for all the hard work of our students and staff. And I'd like to do a quick shout out to all the teachers in the district because this is Teacher Appreciation Week and they all work really hard and we really appreciate all of them.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And that'll bring us to Dr. Young.
We could begin with the PERC recommendations. I know there were a lot of documents there. The school board already approved the contemporary literature course, which will appear did appear in the new program of studies. And a couple of the titles that you saw in there are already in our possession, have been used before in other courses. These 4 titles will be new for that particular course. And this serves as an elective primarily for juniors and seniors. And then the honors English course is being reconstructed to meet the new standards. And so in addition to a few of the titles that we already have, these are 2 titles that we would like to add to those courses, and these are recommended by the English department. Any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? 500.
Thank you. Just a couple of other notes under professional learning. In addition to that we hope to train more teachers on June 21st after school concludes, the two teachers at GMS that are piloting Project Lead the Way, that would be Paula Cullen-Kent and Sandra Doucette, are doing a phenomenal job with something that's brand new to them, bringing that experience to their classrooms. I have visited a couple of times, and on one of those occasions, the teachers were open to bringing a couple of my colleagues from the Salem School District who are interested in implementing Launch, which is the first step of Project Lead the Way. And it is unbelievable how engaged the students are, how excited. One of the competencies for science in the new curriculum is inquiry, of course, as well as science concepts. And the content is, you wouldn't believe, the first graders did something with what you would consider very low-level programming as an introductory course. And they are fortunate to have a teacher who not only is elementary certified, but is a technology integration specialist. So they did that, and then they were working on an activity where they were putting together a storyboard with animated characters, where they would choose the characters, then they would choose the animation, and put all that together. Even more importantly was their ability to collaborate. First graders, for all of us who've had them at one time or another when they were 6 and 7 years old, are rather egocentric and like to do a lot of things themselves, even if they're sitting with others in that sort of social situation. And they have one iPad for every 4 students. We are going to try to improve that to 1 every 3 students. So they have to take turns, most of the time they all want to be the one. Well, in Project Lead the Way, they describe the person who actually interacts with the technology as the driver. And they drive what happens on the iPad at that particular time. And they share, they take turns. It did take a few days, as Mrs. Doucette would describe. They were really good at first, but it took them a little more time to really get ownership of the sharing part. And now they actually time themselves. Okay, it's your turn. And what 6-year-old would give up the technology or the, whatever, being the driver? And they literally sit together at a table, and their heads are all together like this. And I see Mrs. Angel has been in the room, also shake her head. And they're just very engaged. One group happened to be, they weren't enough tables, so they had 4 desks, and they couldn't do it. So when I went by, I just kind of pulled 2 desks out of the way, and all of a sudden they were like bees, right there. And as Sandy will describe, that the evolution of them learning to do that and then transferring that obviously to lots of other activities was just phenomenal. And then in the 4th grade, they are using the little Vex robots. They have a kit for the whole class, and they have groups of 4 also with their iPad where they're watching the video that teaches them how to do the build and what they should be looking for. They have a journal where they're logging their findings. Both teachers have said that when the students need to go to recess or whatever, they don't want to leave. They want to keep doing it. And this is what we strive for. It gives me goosebumps because, not every single lesson can be like that. But if those activities can engage kids in science, because science often will take a back seat to reading and math, and we can really continue to build our STEM experience for students. And students, it naturally differentiates itself because students will contribute what their strengths are. And it's not always, the quickest learner who sometimes has an innovative idea or could take some leadership role in that particular day. So it's very exciting. It really is a large resource investment. We did get a small grant, and I think we're going to have members of the BAE actually, through Project Lead the Way, donated the seed money for those iPads, and then supplement that with district funding. It's been a great success. And then we were awarded another grant for LMS. Again, it was a competitive grant, but we received $15,000 to supplement our supply budget and some technology at the middle school. So that's very, very exciting. We have teachers from the middle school who are attending summer training, and it's very intense. It's a whole week of training. And then we have one high school teacher, Kate Devine, our life science teacher, who's going to supplement her training, previous training in biomedical engineering, and also tentatively, we just met this afternoon, tentatively in environmental engineering. So that will be huge. Causes us to have to do some juggling with courses and personnel. We may have to offer some of these courses in an alternating year type thing, but we are really, really trying to increase our offerings, and I hope that students will take advantage of both the conventional engineering, our computer science engineering, and also biomedical and life science engineering. So these are really super opportunities for our kids. We're very excited about that. And lastly, I have only provided to the board a digital copy of what's labeled as work-study practices. And this is hot off the press from yesterday's meeting with the Grading and Reporting Task Force. This is our final iteration for implementation in the 2016-17 school year. We, the administrative team, will work on a communication plan to the public, and we feel the reason it wasn't printed is because it really is a standalone product, wouldn't do justice to the implementation. So we will be working on a communication plan to explain how this piece of work-study practices fits within the competency-based assessment and grading that will be implementing K-8 in the 2017-18 year. So we'll be on that next month. What that task force has agreed to is that they feel, that particular group feels like this was within the scope of what they had agreed to do. So we are going to reconstitute a group, and some of those same people may participate, into a policy task force, a grading and reporting policy task force. And what we would like to do is put together a proposed policy regarding grading and reporting. At this time, we don't have a document just like that anyway, so we'd be starting pretty much from scratch and creating policy that will guide practice in all of our schools. So I'd like to organize a organizing meeting in late May, but then the majority of our work will be done throughout the next school year. Just to explain, what you see here is a rubric, a large box, has 4 criteria area, and I will name those: citizenship, communication, self-direction, and collaboration. And within those, there's a total of 17 indicators, and they will be scored.
13, isn't it?
13. What did I say? 14?
17.
Late. I said 17. Wow, no. 13. I even
Didn't know
put
if I was
it
looking at the wrong
at the
form.
bottom of the chart. I can add some more. No. And these will be scored, and I use that term to differentiate from your academic grading, and that's the whole point, that this differentiates work-study practices from academic performance on a 1 to 4 basis. The elementary school has expressed its desire to use all 13 indicators, which is similar to the responsibilities category that they have on their report card already. And they tentatively will score those each quarter the same way they do their academic grades. LMS and CHS are inclined to score these by the 4 criteria areas, making the rubric available in the digital system. Andrea Stern, our database person who works with Infinite Campus, is working on a mechanism. So let's say you put your cursor over citizenship, the 2, or somewhere there, you'll see the whole rubric. So you'll see the indicators that go with citizenship. You'll see the ones for communication. But because they're grading so many more students, the elementary people would grade somewhere between 18 and 25 students. Middle school and high school people grade somewhere upwards of 100 or more students. Either by quarter, currently at the middle school, or by semester at CHS, and also by course. So this is one of the things, for instance, that will be embedded in that policy. But we're prepared to implement that this fall as sort of a step-by-step process.
Thank you. All right. I think we can say goodnight to everyone?
Night.
Well, not everyone.
Watch it.
Speaker this year.
Yeah.
Congratulations, speaker.
They haven't chosen yet.
Oh, really?
They're doing a lottery.
To give the person time to prepare. It's getting close.
I know. You've got to be meeting with Mr. Lowe, and she's going to be busy. I'll be here.
I don't know if they know what's going on.
Depending on the day. All I know is I'm not doing it.
Just jinx yourself.
Oops, Frank, sorry.
Not me. If you unplug me, that's it.
That's strictly Derek.
We need to talk.
All right, we'll move right along to older unfinished business policies. Review of EBBC, emergency care and first aid.
Oh, that's right there.
Derek.
Oh, I did. Yes,
Ready,
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So we'll start with committee reports. Anyone meet? Derek, I know that obviously Perk met.
No, that's from a couple weeks ago, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't since then.
So budget committee did meet, and I think I gave you a recap of some of the happenings. Another big portion, what occurred was, again, there was an open seat at the time. Bill Spencer had resigned from his seat. It was advertised in the HLN. As far as any candidates that were interested to submit an application, and there was only one applicant that had submitted, and that was Dennis Miller, previously of the school board. The vote was taken to place Dennis Miller in the seat of the school board, budget committee, and the vote was 4, 2 against, 2 abstain. So Dennis Miller was voted in as a seat for the budget committee. Shortly after he sat, another member resigned. So now there is another open seat, and it was advertised in the HLN. I don't recall exactly what the deadline was. But if you check last week's HLN, I believe the chair had placed another letter in saying that there was an opening, and any interested parties to submit a letter of interest, and they would attend the next meeting, and the same process would happen, that the board would vote for that candidate. That's it. No other committees. So now we'll go to older unfinished business and review policy EBBC, emergency care, and first aid supporting documents.
Is this the Darcon one?
This is the one from the public hearing. If
Okay.
the board cares to discuss anything or wants to give direction on what the next steps will be.
Seems like we might need, do you want to say them?
I had a conversation with the nurses who presented to us tonight and added some really interesting information to us. And what we would like to recommend is to table that particular policy for perhaps the rest of this month, and give us some time to do some more research and come back to you in June with further information, and look at any policy adoption probably towards August as opposed to before that, to give us enough time to really vet it. So
I didn't know if they want to have any discussion as far as I know they were here earlier, and I asked if there were any questions. I didn't know if anyone else had anything else they want to add to it since then, that's all.
I have a couple of things that I wanted to add, just because sorry.
No, that's why.
That's a good thing.
I said as far as for discussion, because I know there's still like things we need to look into as far as this, and it's not an easy one, so.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, I think, well, again, I'm not a medical professional, but it's my understanding that, you know, the real danger and violent revival of people really has more to do with polysubstance abuse and not what Narcan does to somebody. So when somebody is taking an opiate and they overdose on that opiate, what they do is they just kind of quietly slip away. If you've ever had a pet that's been put down, that they're there and then they're gone, is what I understand. And bringing them back is they're back. It's like a miracle. If they've taken something else, and, you know, obviously if the emergency people treating them don't know what they've taken, and that is going to come through once the Narcan takes effect. But, I mean, I don't think that that's something that happens in every situation, but it's certainly something to consider. But I don't think that is a major consideration. And from the research that I've done, I know that this drug has been around for a long time, and it's been used by health professionals for at least 40 years. And there has been no documented issues with regard to people being allergic to it. So there are no known allergies that people have. If you have not taken an opiate, or if it's given by accident to somebody who's not suffering from opiate overdose and it's something else, it's not going to have any effect on them. So it's from what I've read, it would be like, you know, water, basically. So that just from that perspective, I just wanted to share that, because it's not, from my understanding, it's not this dangerous thing that we have to be careful of so much as it's something that can really help to save someone's life. It's not that people wouldn't have the emergency services afterwards. You wouldn't not call 911. In fact, because of the strength of fentanyl that's out there that people are buying and using, I've heard of people needing many hits of Narcan just to keep them alive until, you know, the emergency services get there. So it's certainly something that I think is worth having in our schools, and hopefully it would never have to be used, but I think it's something that we need to really seriously consider having.
Yeah, I started administered twice last year, actually. I did a ride-along with the Manchester Police Department about a year ago. It was last, like, April or so. And it was amazing. I remember being in an apartment building, and there was, like, someone, like, dead on the floor, and they just shot him up, and 30 seconds later he's sitting up, and 2 minutes later he's walking down 3 flights of stairs to get in the ambulance. Like, they're just...
Wow.
He wasn't violent, he just woke up and was like, what's going on?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So, I haven't taken anything, what are you talking about? It's
Right,
like,
they're
okay.
gone and then...
My understanding of the controversy with the Narcan in schools isn't, the perspective that I've seen hasn't been as far as like a liability as administering it, as it is that there is a perception in some communities that addicts will go into a school zone as they deem it a safe area where they can get this treatment. And the perception is there's worry that people will then start coming closer into the school zone, administering their drugs. And if there is a problem, that it could take, then is the school nurse responsible to leave, her position in the school to go into the parking lot or into the playground to then help somebody who has overdosed. So I don't know if that, we didn't have a lot of people from the community come out to voice concern, but I think that's the side of it that I've heard from people out, outside, and that's the big controversy is it pulling resources away from the children in the school, and is it drawing these types of acts into our school zone and into an area where, needles could be left for children if people are coming here. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that there's a statistic that we can, latch onto quite yet. Does it really happen to,
it
are people coming into schools in this area because they think it's a safe zone? I don't think we have a way of determining that.
And from the research that I've done on this, that it does not increase activity in schools or around school areas, because Narcan is available over the counter, I think.
Right.
And the nature of drug use is they're certainly not going to come and do it in a public place, right? but it's available to people who use. And from my understanding, that they might have people who are using, and there's more than one person together when they use, so that in case somebody overdoses, someone's there with the Narcan and can save them. So this is not, it's almost like I think there's a lack of understanding with regard to addiction and kind of the realities of how people use drugs, illicit drugs, and I don't think that there's any documentation at all, anywhere, that there's an increase in use of these illicit substances, or in people going to schools or something to use, because I think it's going to be safer. They can already get this stuff over the counter.
And my initial thought was, I'm not saying that there may not be individuals out there that would do that, but I can tell you personally, if it were me taking it, then I want to be safe. I'd be doing it in like a med stop parking lot where the doctors are. Okay, you know. But that's not to say they wouldn't do it in schools. And I think just the fact that if we do have it in the schools, and if there is, let's hope there's never a need for it. But if there is a need for it, to be able to save a life by just simply injecting someone, I think is.
And I'll tell you, when people purchase opiates for use, like addicts, especially addict behavior that I have seen from my experiences and what I do for living, is that what tends to happen is they usually use very close to where they purchased. So unless they're buying here, then I don't think it's going to be something. They're not going to buy it and then like use it later on, you know.
They're buying it to use, let them there.
Right. Exactly. So a lot of overdoses happening in like Dunkin' Donuts bathrooms and
Right.
Not just that, but you know, like restaurant bathrooms and in cars, like parked by the side of the road, in parks, things like that. But not, people aren't going to schools to do that. It's generally wherever they're buying, and then they're going and using it pretty much everywhere.
Thank you. All right, that'll bring us to our second readings of two policies. First is GBAA, sexual harassment of employees.
I make a motion to approve GBAA.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Next is JBAA, sexual harassment students.
I make a motion to approve JBAA.
Second.
Further discussion? With none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
500. That brings us to the manifest. Are they all set?
Yeah, do you need it?
No, there's enough signatures, I'm fine. That'll bring us to our community input for the second time this evening. Excuse me, hearing none, we'll go into non-public. RSA 91-A:311. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, or the disciplining of such employee, or the investigation of any charges against him unless the employee affected, one, has a right to a meeting, and two, requests that the meeting be open, to in which case the request shall be granted. The hiring of any person or as a public employee, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body of the agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. We are now in non-public.